Hello everybody, I wish you all a very nice early morning session here for you guys in New York. For me it's in Europe, it's already lunchtime, and we had a very interesting 48 hours of trading. Before we go ahead, just have a quick look on the disclaimer and the CFTC rule for doing trades, and also that obviously this is my personal opinion on setups, etc., and what the market thinks, and not any advice for you to follow this accordingly. Now let's look at the markets. Yesterday we talked quickly about what happened on the dollar side. Let's recap, and we're going to start using dollar yen on this issue. Now let's look quickly at the daily in dollar yen, and we see here very much the year Fibonacci. In other words, the year low around 170 and the year's high on Monday at 121.80 roughly. And what we've seen on Monday was the first sort of correction wave which we had on the dollar side, and we can see here very nice on this little trend line that the dollar neatly basically corrected all the way down with dollar yen. And over in Tokyo, and I make this in Asia session, we basically, after the dollar yen went as low as 120.20, we had a shift overnight in sentiment. The dollar regained strength again, and the market went all the way back up and then came back down. And in Europe, obviously, early morning, we are now here 6 o'clock in the morning, early morning Europe session, the whole picture looked different again. The dollar was being sold off again, and then was trying to go back above the very strong resistance at around 120.15, failed, and since New York is in, we have selling pressure coming back in again. So this is the picture on dollar yen. If you just look on euro dollar is the same kind of picture basically. Very strong resistance around excuse me, I do make this a touch bigger, this picture around this line. Hang on, what I'm going to do now is I just take a new template, a fresh one so to speak, and there we can see much better the resistance we have here. This is the very strong resistance which we're facing euro dollar at the present time, between 123.60, 123.65. This has been our lows in November, and obviously also sometime before that. And if you see this, and has been resistance before, and once we break this resistance today or maybe tomorrow, and then there's space for euro dollar to recapture again the 124, and so therefore negate or the move down which we had coming after the ECB meeting from the 124.50 all the way down to 122.40 based on the strong non-farm payrolls, and we're just in the process of negating this whole run. Obviously there are now trading opportunities. What I initially do is, normally if you just look at the hour chart, I always have an hourly trend line already, which you can see very strongly, which we are gonna follow. The market's gonna follow on this one, and that's the basis for our trend setup, but we're gonna discuss this in the pro version. Now if you'd like to join us in the pro sessions, I'm just gonna post a link, and just have a look, and you will have more information on what our pro sessions have on offer. Now looking at cable, interestingly in cable has been very volatile. Again, I use my pre-made template for the averages, and here on the cable side we already see again we came down as well and made basically a V-shaped correction move. You can see this very quickly. Can see this here now, and then we go back up, and therefore we're coming now again also in cable, and just take the dailies. No, 4 hours is better, I think, to give you the impression. Around here, the first very strong resistance, which is around 157, and then we have the next strong resistance at 157.20. Now if we go on the weekly chart and we take our Fibonacci on the weekly chart from the swing low of 148 to the high at 172, still remember we are overall in cable still an upside trend. Okay, the trend direction is up still. This is just nothing more than a corrective move which overextended a little bit, but still on the correction side. 61.8 Fibonacci level, and the correction could go as deep as 76.40, 76.4 in Fibonacci turns, and then even move higher. So this is still a correction basically. Some traders always argue, well, you have a trend shift here once you turn the 50. This is not quite correct. It's just a very strong deeper correction. And now it becomes very crucial. Once we overcome the 61.80 Fibonacci resistance, which comes in approximately at 157.21, and once we overcome this on a daily closing basis, ideally better even on a weekly closing, then we can assume very strongly, and there's a high probability that cable is going to run up all to 160, and once broken the 160, then we're back up onto the upside trend direction 172. But if we just stall out here or stall out there and then resume on the way down, this line in the sand is the 153.50. And if broken, then we basically are on the way down to 145, 148, and once broken this level, we go back down to 135. So cable is very, very interesting. There are setups for both ways which we can trade on, upside and downside, but we'll discuss this later on this afternoon. Now on the Aussie dollar, interesting procedure here as well. The Aussie is basically very strong, soft orientated. In other words, we are here in a very nice downside downtrend. We discussed this already yesterday. Just for recapitulation, here we are, very nice downtrend. And what we found here at the day's low, you can see this very much on this candle. And just take the hourly, we can see very strongly a recovery on the Aussie, and I can draw on already the first basis for our setup approach, this trend line on the hourly chart, where it's going to go up, and once it's going to turn and break this trend line, it's, for example, one entry signal for us to go back direction trend on a short Aussie trade. Now recapitulating, before we go on, I like to have a quick look on gold. On gold, we have basically had the very interesting setup or market movements just prior to the referendum, which happened basically on the 30th of November. We had these lows, and the market was basically short into the referendum. And once it did not pass, most likely people expect the market to sell off while it was already short, so therefore people started to profits, and gold went all the way back up to this level of 12.21. Now this is becoming very, very interesting for the simple reason, this movement basically here, if you take this as a daily candle, it encompasses basically the whole trading range of nearly the whole month of November. And you can argue that all these candles in here are nothing else than inside candles without any really strong direction. So once we're breaking this 12.20, then we have a confirmed up move with first target 12.55 with a small resistance around the 12.30 area. So therefore this basically looks very much strong as an interesting breakout gold long setup, which you can trade later on in the afternoon if the market basically shows enough emphasis and strength to move over the 1,221. And the next step after stop obviously in gold is then 12.55, and after that we are all the way back up to 12.85 and 1,300, maybe still this year on prolonged short covering, but later on to that. Now how are we doing our current positions? As you remember, yesterday in the pro session we set up 2 positions, and unfortunately we got stopped out. One was in euro dollar. We were long euro dollar at 122.65. Euro dollar went up. I moved the stop overnight to 122.94, and we got stopped out with $83. Okay, that's fine. But reason being behind that is very simple, that either you're big in the money or you should not run an overnight position, because the Asian market, as we saw last night, turns sometimes whole way around 180 degrees, and if you just run a position with open stop losses, basically you might be just stopped out. So in those cases I tend to take at least break even, if not even a small profit if I'm stopped out. And this happened here on euro dollar, and the same dollar yen. We were short at 121.05, stopped out at 120.97 when the market just did this move up, this correction here. But having said that, this already doing this correction, it gave us a re-entry signal based on our strategy, and the system re-entered the market here, and that's our current position where we are short at 170.79, which is around this level, approximately 170.73. So we had the signal up here, and position is still running. And the next stop for us is at the moment, and I just put it down here, the 119.55. And that's what we're going to discuss in a moment in the pro session, what we're going to do with the position, whether we're going to increase, take profits, etc., and how we're going to manage that.